Good evening. It's Monday, March 17th, 2025. Welcome to episode 103 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And busy week for me, busy week for the both of us. But we are here on a Monday to share a little bit of time with folks and share some thoughts. As always, I go. Orange Days delivers the savings you need. What are you doing over there?
It did it by itself.
Okay. So, as always, I go through the week and I don't really know exactly what I'm going to talk about on Monday. That's typically how it goes. And then usually by getting close to Monday, I kind of have some thoughts that I want to share. And the one thing with the Trump administration is that, news changes on a dime. And so breaking news, I just learned as of a couple of hours ago that Trump stood before a microphone and he announced that there will be a release of the assassination files for John F. Kennedy. Some 80,000 pages are to be released tomorrow, sometime in the afternoon, as I understand. And so I am actually, I'm encouraged by that. I am, however, cautiously optimistic because we have already been promised documents that have failed to appear and materialize. But that was some very interesting and welcome news right out of the gate here, just as of a couple hours ago. And so what are your thoughts on that, Rebecca?
I hope nothing happens to him over the night.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that ran through my head too. I was thinking, man, wouldn't that be something? That, I always hope that, but that is something that actually came through my thoughts, and we'll just kind of see what shakes out tomorrow. But yeah, again, breaking news, JFK files tomorrow. Isn't that cool?
That is, I believe he said, hoping that there's no redactions. He doesn't plan on it, and it's up to us to filter through all those pages. And
right. Well, you have to. There's going to be redactions in 80,000 pages of things. There will be things that you won't be able to see, but I'm certain that there's going to be a lot of information, whether or not it actually implicates what many of us have long suspected, which is the involvement by the CIA or another governmental agency coordinating in his assassination. I don't know if that's what we'll come to learn, but we will find out, I think, sooner rather than later, it looks like at this point. So that's pretty cool, I think.
So keep our fingers crossed. It's a good night for him.
Right. Well, yeah, always. It's a good night for everyone. I think we should keep our fingers crossed for that. But also I saw, because I was just perusing Truth Social, and the dude he's taking a hammer to stuff. And he just announced that he's doing away with the Secret Service protection from Joe Biden's children, Ashley Biden, as well as his crackhead son, Hunter Biden. And so pretty interesting, all the developments that are taking shape here. And I was going to ask you at the end of this, Rebecca, for you to give another grade, if you will, because we graded Trump based on the initial couple of weeks, and now it's been about 6 weeks, and the grade is going to either go up, stay the same, or diminish over time. And so I was going to ask you at the end of this, what grade would you give him? And we'll get to that, but a lot of it's going to be, for me, predicated on what he does, fulfilling a lot of the promises, and thus far he's done that. For the most part.
I agree. I think that, like I say, he just came out of the gates fighting.
Right. But as always, Rebecca, how are you doing this evening?
I could say that I'm somewhat frustrated. I do not care for all of the automation. You go to look up because you want to cancel an appointment or you want to make an appointment, and you have to go through all of these series of leaving a message, we'll get back to you, and then they don't get back to you, and you've got to call.
Press 2 for Spanish, press 1 for English, that kind of thing.
Yes, I did that with not only with a haircut, but scheduling a pickup for a truck, but even trying to locate my brother in the hospital. I got sent all over, and it was all automated, and it's just extremely frustrating.
Yeah, no, I share your feelings on that. I'm the same way. It is very frustrating that somehow customer service over time has really diminished. And I suppose we can talk about that ticket that you got, because that speaks largely to the way we're headed with everything being automated. So why don't you mention the ticket that you just got in the mail today?
So I got a ticket in the mail for failing to stop at a red light. It's not so much that I failed to stop at a red light, but they do have a video of it. But it's making a right-hand turn at a red light. And there were about 3 of us that we stopped. I was the third one in the line. And as people went, I went. So when you watch the video as where it starts, it looks as though I did not stop. Now in California, I guess I should have paused right at the crosswalk for it to be valid. But anyway, I have a ticket. It came in the mail, told me that I owed them $430. And if I wanted to go to traffic school, they'd add another $70 to it, and I could pay them $500.
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? So automation is making America great for all of us. And I don't know, it's pretty frustrating, but the whole the customer service aspect of things is very frustrating for me as well. I'd like to actually pick up and physically talk to another human being. And I do have a couple of hacks on how to do that. One of the things that I usually do is, because when you get those, press 1 for customer service, press 1 for if you're doing this, press 1 for that, or whatever number it is. I always press the 1 for sales. And if they give you an option, like you're going to be buying something, if you press that, generally speaking, you're going to get a human being, because they want to make the sale. That's a line that they keep a person dedicated to. But as far as if you have a complaint, a customer service, a repair, or a troubleshooting thing, or what have you, they're just going to send you on a goose chase. And so that's one of the things that I do. It seems to work quite well. Another thing that I do is I'll press, 0. Yeah, just go straight to the operator. And a lot of times it is pressing 0 will take you right to a human being. But I very much like to deal with businesses. If I know that there's a business that I can go and spend a little bit more money for a product, that's to me worth it, to be able to go and talk to a human being, because that's the least of the things that I like to do, is to sit there and have to keep getting the runaround from, some phone tree.
Yeah, absolutely. It just was completely frustrating. I do the same thing. Sometimes you have to push the 0 a couple times before it actually will shift you to, because it's like, that was not a choice. Mm-hmm. That was not a choice. And then maybe the third time around, they finally, because it's not a choice, they actually shift you to a person that you get to talk to. In this case, referring to his truck, I went ahead and took his advice. And I got a guy, but that guy shifted me over to an department, and I ended up talking to an answering machine.
Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, you have to get a little bit more assertive with people and go directly at them, letting them know that you're very displeased with their business and that you maybe be taking your business elsewhere. And sometimes you need to demand that you speak to a supervisor, and you can get your point across. But it is very frustrating dealing with people. And I would just say that customer service, in my opinion, is just not what it was, not too many years ago. The quality of people that you get on the phone, they have fucking attitudes. And it's like you said the other day, Rebecca, somebody gave you attitude in the store, and your reply to me was, she ought to be happy to have a job.
Yes.
And she's taking up attitude when she's just trying to get a problem resolved, and that's no way to treat people, because what that does is it maybe will deter you from going back there and patronizing. So I don't know if people realize that.
Well, the other thing that irritates me, and I don't know if it irritates you guys out there, but it really irritates me is, and I know why they do it, but the stores constantly move things around.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that so when you go in, you can't go directly right to what you want. So you've got to go up and down the aisles, and then you end up buying things you didn't intend on buying.
Right.
For me, it's very frustrating. And if I can't go right to what it is that I want and get that and get out of that store, I don't want to go back.
Right. Because old people like us with a lot of time on our hands, we just can't be bothered with like searching for stuff. We just want it right now. Right.
Yeah.
So anyhow, yeah, it has been a very unexpectedly expensive week for us. But, sometimes you just got to spend the money. And, case in point, she mentioned my truck. Well, she was driving my truck here over the weekend. And what happened to that truck? It died on you, did it not?
Well, Eric left and took my car.
Yeah.
So what I had left was his truck to be able to take to go get our grandson, because it has an extra cab on it.
Yeah.
So I could put the car seats in there. I got roughly about a mile from our house and the truck died. I was able to get it restarted and it died again. And I got it partway in somebody's driveway and hanging halfway out in the street. And again, here we go, automated to try to get a tow truck to come get me.
Yeah.
And you've got to go through this whole thing. And then they tell you to hang up. But what they don't say is that hang up and fill out the paperwork that's going to come up. They just say, just hang up. We'll be on our way. So luckily, I was able to get the truck started and kind of nursed it back to the driveway and parked it.
Yeah.
But it was just frustrating.
So needless to say, today we loaded it up on a flatbed tow because it's running rough for whatever reason. I have no idea. The truck's never given me any problems, but it's having issues right now. And so we're spending money on getting it down to the Ford dealership, and they're going to give us an assessment as to what the problem is. There's unexpected money that we didn't need to spend. And then
the ticket came.
And then I also, this weekend, I was at a race and I got a parking ticket for $30. And so was down in Santa Barbara. I'm not going to go there and try to contest it because it's in Santa Barbara. And,
but didn't they say that they were going to cover? Don't worry about it. Go ahead, park. I'm not
going to worry about that at all. But nonetheless, we got another ticket and a bill to, so it's just been very unexpected this week with various things coming up. And also scheduled the RV to go in for service. There's another, $2,500 or whatever it's going to be. So nonetheless, she might have a little bit more ranting in her tonight. Usually it's me, the one who's actually getting fired up. It could be her. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I had a series of things happen to me. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they all happened while he was at a race. So I was home alone and just getting frustrated, irritated, nobody to talk to. And kind of getting myself wound up.
Right. Well, good evening, you guys. Thanks for joining us. London Pickery's in the house and Bill Warner. And I think I saw Hogs 14 in there.
Yes.
And Dennis,
hello to everyone.
Dennis Augustine. And London was asking any
Bill
news.
Warner.
Excuse me. What?
I think Bill Warner was down at the bottom too.
Okay. Hey, Bill, what's going on? London was asking any news on the race that I was entered into. And yeah, I went down this weekend and I ran that. And I would have to say it's the toughest 50K I've ever run in my life. I've run a number of 30-mile races and they're always difficult, but this one was extremely difficult just because of the amount of climbing. There was about 11,000 feet of vertical gain and descent. And it was just a long day for 35 miles. It took me about 10 hours and 20-some minutes. And that's typically not what it takes me to do that amount of distance. So
I got this call at about 2:00 and I thought, wow, you finished the race already? He goes, no, I'm hiking uphill and just thought I'd give you a call.
Yeah, I had still had about another 3 hours to go. So, but anyhow, it went well. I was down visiting some friends of mine, and they actually gave me a free entry into this race. They own a company called Luna Sandals. And I was down there representing their company and running in their gear. And so it's a race that's been around for a while. It's one that I've kind of wanted to do. And now I can check it off the bucket list because, I've been there, done that. So it was good. It was a good day.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to thank Rebecca because, when things like that happen, it's always nice when you have someone who can look after the place. That isn't always the case. Sometimes we go places together, and I always prefer when she goes down with me to these races, and we get to spend a little time away from the homestead. But she was taking care of the homestead in my absence, and of course, there's always things that tend to go wrong a little bit, and the truck was one of those things. And
the truck was one of the things. I wasn't able to have my grandkids because of the truck.
Right.
I went to do a workout and apparently didn't start my watch, so that wasn't calculated on there, and it just kind of snowballed things. Yeah. And I was sad. He was away from home, so
right. Right. Yeah. No. And
I was alone. I'm glad he's home.
We also had an issue with the solar as well. You'd mentioned, so that's something that we've going to be spending money on as well. But it's more or less, I think, just a service call. But we don't know how to resolve the problem because I wound up getting a new phone this week, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know if you guys are iPhone people or you're Droid people or whatever, but we've always been Droid people, and I like the Android. But it's been 6 years since I've actually upgraded my phone. My phone was an S10.
Oh, you should have seen the phone.
Yeah, it was
frightening.
It was a Galaxy S10. And it was more than due. And so I wound up upgrading to the Galaxy S25 Ultra. And so it's kind of a nice phone. I'm digging it so far. But in doing so, it's not synced with the brain or whatever on our deal, and we can't figure out how to do it. So we're going to have to, again, come out of pocket and pay somebody to come and probably show us how to push the reset button or something. I don't know, because...
However, if they wanted to answer their phone, they probably could have walked us through it on the phone.
Yeah. Anyhow, as far as on the homestead around here, we've, I don't know, you've been doing all the work. So I was really busy today doing a lot of property cleanup because yesterday we had a storm roll in, and I would suspect I didn't have an anemometer up, but I would suspect that our winds probably were peaking around 50 miles an hour. It was pretty forceful, and there was a lot of like blowdown. Nothing significant, but a lot of little stuff when you get winds that high comes out of the trees. And so there's limbs kind of everywhere. And so I was just out doing a lot of, assessing the what happened overnight and doing that today. But it was, definitely something that was very needed. And I guess it was needed that I rest because I'm still dealing with a little bit of delayed onset muscle soreness. I've got the DOMS after running up and down hills for.
So he runs his 35 miles.
Mm-hmm.
He visits for a little bit, gets in the car and starts to head back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What'd you say you slept? An hour, and then gets up and starts driving back, pulls over, sleeps another couple hours. He's home Sunday by 9:30 in the morning.
No, I was home by 8:30.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought it was 9. Anyway, I was very surprised to see him walk through the door. I thought, you'd still be in Southern California trying to get some rest and recover.
I was having breakfast at Denny's at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah, well, that's Eric's style.
Yeah.
No rest.
Driving tired is actually a lot easier than running 35 miles. So, to sit on your ass and just drive I love it, actually. It's pretty relaxing.
My head would be tilted back and I'd be snoring.
You'd be tilting forward, pecking corn, right? Pecking corn. But anyhow, let's see here. Let me get caught up if I can. I had a comment here from Dennis Augustine. And what does it say here? Watching from Ontario, Canada. Is this trade war affecting you? I'm sorry that allies and neighbors are at odds. Hopefully this will pass. Yeah, I think that it will pass. I think what's happening, and I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but Trump is more or less, he's doing something punitive to both Canada and Mexico by imposing tariffs on aluminum and steel. And that's to get their attention to say, hey, you know what? You need to do a better job of securing our border and not allow illegal aliens and fentanyl to pass through. I know it's a real pain in the ass for me to go to Mexico. They move you over into a room and give you the once over. But if you're an illegal coming from any foreign nation, somehow they are very permissive. And so what we've seen over the last 4 years has been an administration that has opened the checkbook and with open arms allowed everybody to flow in. And so I think what Trump's doing is he's doing that in a way to get the attention of our neighbors, both Canada and Mexico. But he's also what he's doing by inflicting tariffs. He's trying to do reciprocal tariffs, meaning many countries, including Canada, places tariffs on goods coming into our country to the tune of like 100 and 200% on some items. And so all he's doing is saying, well, if you're going to do that, we're not going to keep taking it in that, laying down. We're going to make things fair. And so all of the countries that have imposed tariffs on us, he's doing reciprocal tariffs. That just seems to me to be fair. It's been years and years of our leaders kind of bending the knee in a sense to say, well, hey, we're the mighty United States of America. We're doing so well here. We're prosperous and we're this and we're that. And we're going to allow other countries to kind of raise themselves up to our level. And that's what was done for many years with China. China used to be a fucking broke ass nation. Not that many years ago, 30 years ago, China was a joke. And now economically, they are about ready to surpass the United States. And so I think Trump is really one of the few leaders that really understands the trade issue. And so we'll just kind of see how things work out moving forward. But I think that there's good relations with Canada. I know that there's a lot of people that are pissed and they're, not buying American goods and this and that. Hey, that's fine. I say, do what you do, because I would advocate that people in this country should buy American products over buying something from Canada or Mexico. Mm-hmm. I think that that's just smart and that's prudent as a citizen of your country. So I don't hold any animus toward people of Canada. I know there's great people up there. I know there's great people everywhere. And unfortunately, politicians get in the way of good people. And so I welcome you tonight, Dennis. And I think it will pass, man. I think that our countries are going to be, a thing in the future.
I think that they will definitely learn how to work together.
Of course, you have to, man. We're all in the same freaking globe, and that's just something that's like, it's so interesting that everybody's vying for their little fiefdoms. And I get it. I can say that here, being an American, being in a first world country, and there's places that just don't have what we have.
Yeah.
And I get it why people want to come here for a lot of reasons. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But yeah, man, welcome to the chat this evening.
So if I interpret it right, Bill Warner says your truck is mad at you for taking my car. That's why it's acting the way it's acting.
Yeah, man. I don't know. That's weird because I've never had any problems with that. That's a really good truck. It's a 7.3 Power Stroke. And those are one of the best motors that Ford had diesel wise in a long time. Those are very sought after, as those 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesels. And it's never given me any real problems, but for whatever reason, it's running rough right now. And I'm not the guy to fix it.
Which is interesting because it was a lemon law buyback.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's actually run fine for us.
We've had it for 20 years and it's run like a top. I got it for a really good price. I got it for $30,000. I paid $30,000 out the door, 3/4 ton, full, full super cab and all that. Mm-hmm. Tow package and everything. Had low miles on it. Had 23,000 miles on it when I got it, and I paid $30,000. And so, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I am not the guy to fix it. I'll be first to admit. I can do a little bit of repair, right? I can change brakes and do stuff like that, and fluids and change parts, put an alternator on or whatever. But I'm not a car guy, man. I don't like that. I really don't like working on cars. I like to get in a car, turn the key, and go.
See, now cars actually fascinated me. Engines fascinated me all up until they became So computerized. Now I'm clueless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, same. I took, auto shop in school. I if it had a cap and rotor and points and plugs and stuff like that, and you could set the timing and, you could do stuff on engines back then. But now everything's, you got to hook it up to the brain and then it tells you what to do. And I don't have
Yeah,
time.
That's beyond me.
No, forget about it, man.
I remember when I went to a pick and pull with my older brother and he said, "You like this?" I go, "Yeah, this is really cool."
Yeah.
And his wife was sitting over in the corner. She was bored as could be.
Yeah. Yeah, man. London says, what about servicing the P&T jet? Yeah, man. We do not have one of those.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, I think it would, but like, think about how much you'd have to maintain. You don't, it's not like a car where you can
If we could have a jet, we probably could afford to have somebody maintain it.
Well, that's probably true. But I'd be, if it was me, I'd probably be like my truck out there where baling wire and leaking oil and, all that, but it's all good.
Majority of the doorknobs don't work.
Yeah. Hog says, I'm still on my Galaxy from 6 years ago. It works. Why switch it out? Yeah, that's that was always my thoughts. I'm not a guy who needs to go and upgrade stuff just because, oh, look they got something new. No, mine was beat though, man. I mean, it was getting to the point where I could not get it to light the screen up. I'd be pushing the power button to get the screen to like illuminate, and it wouldn't do it. And I was getting fearful that this thing was going to lock me out at some point. And so I just decided to use her upgrade, and we got an upgraded phone. But you probably have something close to what I had, which was an S10. I had an S10e because mine is from 2019 or something like that.
Right. Mine is an S23.
Yeah. Flip phone. Yeah, they still have those, but the problem with the flip phones and all, you're gonna have to go to you're not going to have the old technology. It's gonna, probably the least you'll be able to have is like 4G, soon, because they're already working on the 5G network. And so anything that's first or second generation is being phased out, and that's what those phones work on. So, you can try to hold out for as long as you want, but yeah, you definitely are going to be limited there,
right?
Communication wise. So
for Bill, he said the 75 earlier. I had a Triumph Spitfire. It was a 79, and it was pretty easy to work on. I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Bill says that I know that here in Tennessee, the tariff on aluminum has brought the price of scrap aluminum up by 30 cents a pound. Yeah, I think that, as these tariffs kind of play out, but, a lot of it too is just leverage. Trump is, he goes long and then he'll pull it back. And that's just the art of the deal, man. He's going to hit you hard and then he's going to like bring it back to make you think, hey, we can live with this. This isn't as bad as that. Meanwhile, he's still advancing the ball back toward the middle or, in the advantage of what he feels as though is right. So that's just the way it goes. It'll work itself out, guys. I believe.
Yes.
75 and earlier are the best. Yeah, you're right. So I wanted to talk about something tonight, and it's the DOGE Department of Government Efficiency. And I think that Elon Musk, quite honestly, of the people within the administration, Donald Trump's administration, they've been doing a fantastic job. They really have. They've been cutting a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. And on the website, the Doge website, and if you guys haven't been on that, I would encourage you to just go on there and see what's shaking out and learn a little bit more about your government, because we all pay into it in one way or the other. But they're keeping a running total of the estimated savings of all of the cuts and reductions that they've made. So there's different programs that they're, trying to eliminate, and different grants and different contracts that are being done away with. And right now on the page, it estimates that they've saved $115 billion. And, that's a lot of money, obviously.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
Just think how many condoms that could buy.
Yeah, I guess if you're, you know, yeah. It seems very small. I suppose in comparison to the deficit, which is 6 trillion, I believe. But I wanted to like kind of break it down for myself, and I thought I'd do this little math exercise. So it's something that's quantifiable and that I could wrap my head around as far as like how much, when what could we do with that $115 billion? I know that they've discussed giving rebates to the American people, which we've talked about before, and I'm clearly in favor of, because it's our money. I'd rather see our money stay in our country with our people than go over, to Rebecca's point, and buy condoms in Africa. That to me makes no sense. However, again, what could you even do with $115 billion? And so,
A lot.
yeah, I thought one of the ways that you could do that is just, there's a lot of people in this country living at or below the poverty level. And so I wanted to know how many people in the United States are actually living at or below that. What's the number? And the best estimate that I have been able to come up with is about 14.5 million people. However, that doesn't differentiate between those that are citizens and non-citizens. So my suspicion is that there's probably less than that number, quite honestly, because that figure 14.5 comprises both citizens and non-citizens. And so I came up with this as an equation. I said, if you had, how many households that had 4 family members, let's just take that as a number. If you have 4 family members, how many households with 4 family members could $115 billion feed for 4 months? A third of a year. Assuming that each family had a grocery bill of $2,000 per month. Now, that's probably a low figure, right? It's probably more than that for the average family of 4. You could probably get by on that maybe, but it's not going to be what most people probably spend with the price of everything. However, those people would be able to augment what they are currently spending. And that, they may not be able to have to send their kids to bed hungry. Maybe that, you could eliminate that by helping to assist them. And so what I did is I took 2,000 per month, times it by 4 months, and that's $8,000 per household. So all of these households would get $8,000, which is going to augment them for 4 months. And then if you take $115 billion and divide it by $8,000, magically that's 14,375,000. And so that would allow you to provide supplementary food assistance for 4 months to 14,375,000 households.
That's a lot of top ramen.
Well, that's just a lot of food. And I think that's, I don't know what you think about that, Rebecca. Would you be in favor of something like that happening?
Providing it was going to U.S. citizens and not illegals.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be in favor of that. I would be in favor of the money staying here in this country, being spent in this country. Even if it was going to illegals, if it's staying here, but it's staying in the country, buying things here, that would make more sense than sending it elsewhere. And all of that money that's being cut is in frivolous spending. And so I don't know, it's kind of an interesting exercise. What do you think?
It is. When you talk about spending money on food, you've got the cards. They're made to look like the EBT cards, I guess, where they can go in and purchase food so that it doesn't make them look like any different than anybody else. One of the programs that was started that I did like was WIC, which was for women, infant, and children. And they could purchase milk and cheese and bread, things that actually would feed, and not be able to go in and zip a card and buy chips and soda. And
Yeah, I think that's, I get where you're coming from on that, but I'm not going to be so rigid in what I say people can buy, with their money. If you're going to give somebody money, let them spend it how they want to spend it. Hey, you're getting taxpayer money, so therefore you need to buy milk and cheese. I don't know if I fucking agree with that. If they want to eat shitty food, let them eat shitty food. It's what they want to eat. It's their money. Well, if we're giving it to them, because I don't want somebody telling me how I'm going to spend my money, regardless of how I get it.
Well, I mean, obviously they can buy whatever they want with it. But when you were talking about going to bed and not being hungry, it would be better to actually be able to purchase food that's not empty carbs.
Sure. Yeah. Get whole foods. That would be ideal. I mean, it would be better to educate people toward that and try to get them to say, hey, like, this is, in your best interest. And these are the reasons why eating this other bullshit is not good for you. But see, that's never going to happen because it's such an industry. There's an entire industry on selling people bullshit in this country. And they're not going to allow people to be educated in that way. That's why there was so much opposition to Bobby Kennedy. Why do you think they were fighting him? Because of all of the things that he's been litigating against his entire career. There's a lot of special interests that don't want people educated. They want people eating fucking Cheetos. They'd rather see you go to bed hungry or get at some, gnarly disease that they could turn around and have a cure for. That's the whole system, man. Mm-hmm. So again, whether it's, the EBT cards or the SNAP cards, SNAP is what used to be food stamps. They used to call them food coupons. And I think that's what the EBT cards became is it's part of the SNAP program, which stands for Supplemental Nutrition and something else. But, it sounds a little better than food coupons, right? It's less, people are less judgy about it, I guess. Mm-hmm. Right.
So I'd like to say hello to Bird Lady and Dennis Augustine and Dean Mullis.
Dean Mullis in the house.
And Sylvia Gibson.
Yeah, man. If I were the government, I would give everyone 4 hair sheep and laugh.
They could go out there and spin their own wool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they wouldn't know what to do with a sheep. Bird Lady says, I went into Neighbors and tried to teach people on EBT how to grow their own fruit trees, seeds, and plants can be purchased with EBT, offered to start gardens, I guess, for them. They weren't interested. Yeah.
Convenience. People like convenience.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there probably aren't people who might be receptive to that. I think there's a lot of people out there who want that sort of thing, but you just have to find the right audience. But as what Rebecca was saying, there's so many people that just want it easy, man. They don't want to have to actually go grow anything. Mm-hmm. That takes work. That takes time. They'd rather just go and get it. And it's even better if you don't have to earn the money. Right. And so like what we were talking about earlier about providing that supplemental $2,000 a month to those 14 million families. I would be in support of that. However, my issue with it would be, that people are expecting that to maybe, I would like to see a program where people had to show and demonstrate that they're looking to improve themselves. And, if there's somebody who's actually struggling, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that I think, are the most deserving. But there's also a lot of people out there that are struggling and they don't have any desire to actually lift themselves up. And so that's where I have a problem with giving people something for nothing. And I don't even think this is something for nothing, because if they pay into the system, which people at the poverty level actually don't pay federal taxes because, it's on a gradated scale. If you're at the poverty level, you don't contribute. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, I mean.
Right. Well, it's the same as helping you get a better feeling helping a homeless person who actually wants to get off the streets and improve their life and move on,
Right.
as opposed to ones who are completely happy with living on the street and begging from people.
Yeah, it's every bit of that, every bit of what you see here in California, and other places that permit this to occur within their municipalities and their states and counties and whatever else. It's a money grab. It's an industry.
Mhm.
Make no mistake about it. There's a lot of money coming from NGOs and stuff to facilitate this.
Mhm.
And there's plenty of money thrown at these things to like do good, but it's never solving the problem because many of those people don't want to be helped. There's places for them to go and get a bed, but they don't go to the bed because you have to like actually clean up your act
Right.
and get off, the drugs you're on or what have you. And, just it's a money thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. So looking at Doge back on March 11th, this is something that they posted. And this is just how amazing it is, how much is being wasted in this country. And none of us were even had any knowledge of this for the most part, I would say. The average person going to work and paying their taxes and hoping to maybe do something with their kids on the weekend, doing the thing 5 days a week and just in the hamster wheel, paying your 60%. You have no idea that they're actually taking the money and using it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they always sell it to us like, oh, hey, we need roads. We need bridges. We need infrastructure. We need firefighters. We need school teachers. We need all this stuff, which, yes, we do for the most part. But that's not what they tell you that the money's being used for. So these are some of the grants that were just recently canceled. $620,000 for an LGB plus inclusive teen pregnancy prevention program for transgender boys.
Now, wrap your head around that.
Exactly.
Now, the way I understand that is that's a girl that wants to transition to be a boy, but still wants to have a baby.
Yeah. No, I don't know, but anyhow, that's what your money is being spent on. I can't wrap my head around it, guys. I'm going to leave that one alone. Okay, I'll say it again. I will say that again, Bird Lady. So $620,000 for an LGBTQ plus IA inclusive teen pregnancy prevention program for transgender boys. So yes, it would be a female that has decided, hey, I'm going to be a boy, but yet they still have female parts. And so this is a pregnancy prevention program for teens. So first of all, obviously,
because now she's a boy and she's interested in a boy, but she's not gay because she's not a she, she's a he.
Well, okay. I'm tracking with you, I guess. But anyhow, teen pregnancy. Oh, okay. So we're subsidizing this with state funds, with government funds. We're encouraging this behavior with teens. And I understand 18 is an adult, and that's still a teenager. 19 is still a teenager, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about teens, I suspect,
Mm-hmm.
right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And that's not something we should be spending money on. But I digress. And then we go back to $699,000 for studying cannabis use among sexually minority, gender diverse individuals. We'll come back to that one. $740,000 for examining social networks among Black and Latino sexual minority men in New Jersey. Again, we will revisit that. $50,000 for assessing sexual health among LGBTQ plus Latin youth in an agricultural community. What does that mean? I have no idea. The next one.
You don't want my explanation?
Illegal aliens? Gay illegal aliens? Is that what you're thinking?
No.
What?
I don't know. Because that's the first time I heard you read that. So I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't digested that one yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who can digest this, man? I mean, it's just a bunch of bullshit. It's made up stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
$75,000. I could use $75,000 maybe to buy a new truck,
Yeah, that would be sweet.
but $75,000 for researching structural racism, whatever that is, I have no idea. But I wanted to know what a sexual minority was, since I'd never really even heard of that term. So I looked it up, and it said a sexual minority refers to individuals or groups whose sexual orientation, sexual identity, or sexual practices differ from the majority of the population. Typically, this includes people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, asexual, or other non-heterosexual orientations. The term is used to highlight that these groups are numerically smaller compared to the heterosexual majority and often face unique social, cultural, or legal challenges as a result. I have a problem with this.
Yeah.
I have a problem with this because, what's the government getting involved, giving money to minority groups over another group? And why is the government involved in people's sexuality?
It shouldn't be. Why should it be even be
No. And why
a
should
topic of discussion?
why should they be promoting a lifestyle that has no basis in what defines and promotes the growth and health of a nation or a society? We've had this discussion before, and I'm not anti-gay. You can be whatever you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the government's job to take money from taxpayers and promote a lifestyle that does nothing to contribute from the standpoint of populating the earth. Now, if they were taking this money and giving it to maybe families that are responsible and doing the right thing and raising kids that are going to be valuable assets to the future of this country or future of the world, that would make more sense to me. But the government has no business taking money from people and saying, well, we're going to promote alternative lifestyles because it makes somebody feel good.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's a little bit of a rant on mine. Yeah.
So Bill Warner says, or actually, it was not Bill Warner. It was Sylvia Gibson. She says, give a man a fish and you can feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you can feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a very true.
I've heard that statement.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it's very popular.
It's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see here. I'm looking at something, guys. Hold on one second. Just checking the comments. Okay.
Sylvia also says, can you imagine the birth defects? That was the
birth defects on what?
That was back on the transgender pregnancy thing, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know anything about.
Because they'd be taking hormones and
yeah, that's.
If they end up,
I suppose that's a possibility, but again, I just don't think that the government has any business promoting these sort of ideals, right?
Right.
Yeah, he's been Elon Musk, man. He's been doing so much good work with those, and he's been doing a lot of other great humanitarian and contributing in the technological realm, obviously, with all of his different things that he's done. And unfortunately for him, however, by aligning himself with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, he's become target number one. He's become enemy number one by the radical left. And, the way that I see it, there's like two two factions of the radical left. First, you have just the average person, who's what I would consider the non-player character, the NPC. And an NPC is somebody in like a video game, where you see those video games where there's a character walking around, but you can't control the character. It's just kind of, he just moves through the thing, and he never dies or anything like that. Or maybe sometimes they do die, but there's nothing you can control. He's just in the game, and he's just kind of meandering around, and that's an NPC. And I also, I guess, refer to people like that as useful idiots. And, those, for me, those are people that are just, caught up in the turbulence of politics. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've found myself at times being caught up in just the turbulence of politics and buying the propaganda and not really thinking for myself. And what that does is it causes you to align with things that maybe are against your own best interest. And I think that a lot of people on the left, a lot of left-wing NPCs and people who I would consider to be useful idiots, they do that because they don't even align with their own personal values. They align with the ideology of leftism or progressivism, but they don't align with their own personal values. And
right. Well, they sell you the idea, and they sell you that it's good,
mm-hmm.
but they don't follow it themselves.
Yeah, that's very true. I think, what I mean by that, and I'll say it like this, is that I think most people, regardless of what your political party you're in or where you even live, I would say this is true of most people on this planet. Most people want to pay less in taxes. Most people want less burdensome regulation. They want less restriction on their individual liberty. They want to go and express themselves and speak their mind how they see fit in doing so. They don't want the oppression of government control in their lives. Most people want safety and security within your community and within your own home. And most people want to pay less at the gas pump and in the grocery stores. They want to pay less for certain items. And I think all of these things that I just said, everybody listening to this, it probably resonates with. Whether you're a liberal, whether you're from Canada, whether you're from South Africa, wherever you are, I think that's just innate in the human experience. We all want that. We all want safety and security. We want to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see people aligning with something that's opposite of that, based on a political ideology, it just kind of blows me away, because right now we do have Donald Trump, who's kind of advocating for all of the things that I just said.
Yes.
Less taxes, less, you want safety, you want control of your borders, you want economic security, you want, all of those things is something that he's advocating for. You want less corruption in your government. You want less waste, fraud, and abuse. What's wrong with that? If you're Canada, what's wrong with the phrase, make Canada great again? Or wherever you're from, make the place you're living in great again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But unfortunately, many people have been corrupted by the thought that to say those things somehow makes you a certain type of person or whatever. And so you're sabotaging your own self. And I would say that describes 100% of the people basically in the world. But the non-player character or the useful idiot will actively work to sabotage their own success in achieving any of those things just based on ideological programming.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been programmed to some extent, but some people are smart enough to recognize the programming and say, well, that's kind of like, it's a bridge too far for me. And then there's other people that just lap it up. Right.
Right.
And, again, by targeting a person like by Trump. And so you have that aspect of the radical left. I would say that those people are aligned with the radical left. And then the other faction you have, at least the way that I see it, is, I guess, the foot soldiers. the people that are actually out there in not only institutions, but actually doing things boots on the ground in the streets, pushing and affecting change.
Mm-hmm.
And so, within the institutions, I mean, there are many, right? There's soldiers in the media that are just going to carry the water and say whatever bullshit they've been told to say. There, you have people that are radical leftists in academia. I mean, and they're deep in academia, in the colleges, and all the things that they've been pushing with all their agendas.
Yes.
Yeah. Critical race theory and all this sort of stuff.
There's a lot that goes on in academia.
Yes.
That is not right.
Yeah. Also, obviously the entertainment industry and all branches of government.
Mm-hmm.
Executive branch, but both sides of the executive branch. It happens on the right. It happens on the left. I'm not just calling it out specifically as leftists do this. It's done on both sides to some extent. But right now, what we're seeing is the radical left coming out, and the judiciary. It happens. There's a lot of judicial activism. Obviously, these people are supposed to uphold and defend the Constitution, but yet they bring in their political bias, and they're trying to do everything that they can to slow down the process of what's constitutionally allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump's dealing with a lot of that right now, and we're seeing the radical left mobilize in that regard. And then also the legislature, right? I mean, we've all watched it on both sides of the aisle. But here's something that actually, what's up, DHT? How are you doing this evening? Here's something that I was talking to you about, Rebecca, that I don't think you've seen. I know that it's probably a little old news for some, but I wanted to play this, and this dovetails into what I was talking about, how the legislature, they're foot soldiers for the radical left. These are some of the leaders in the party, and somehow they all got the memo.
That ain't true. That's what you just said.
Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are up, not down. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The cost of groceries, gas, housing, even eggs. He's letting Elon Musk take a chainsaw, giving him access to America's most sensitive data. Your social security numbers, tax returns, thousands of central government. He's frozen federal funding for cancer research, veterans services, payments to family farmers, and so forth. Why? Republican plan very simple. Families lose, not billionaires. And that is the truth.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, you heard it from them. That's the truth. That's what they ended up with. That's the truth. And so the average NPC is going to lap that up and go, oh, well, that's the truth. But yet they can't see that it's just all coming from a script. It's all stagecraft. And what that video didn't show is that there were actually 22 members of the legislature that said the exact same thing. However, when you play that video, there's so many people over speaking each other, you can't really even tell what they're saying. So it's better to watch the one where there's only 4 on there. But this is very reminiscent of what happened a few years ago when they were all talking about, the same thing on the news. And I mean, it was just like, it was bizarre.
See, to me, that's mind blowing. You change a channel and they're saying the exact same thing.
Well, it's not that you're changing the channel. It's that they've put together this montage of all these different.
I know, but they have no thought of their own. They're just repeating what it is that they're being told to say. And so regardless of what you're looking at, you're hearing the exact same and almost word for word.
Yeah.
And that should turn on a light bulb going, huh?
Yeah. What's very, very interesting to me is how lucky we are to be living in this time in our lives, guys. Think about it. Because when I grew up, as did many of you, I'm sure, we only had 3 channels, CBS, ABC, NBC. And then we had, of course, the government channel, PBS, which is funded through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which actually they're trying to get rid of. And I would certainly support that because they receive, $500 million a year I think it's $500 million a year. It goes to Corporation of Public Broadcasting. But yet they put out leftist propaganda. They never put out shit that's favorable for the right. They don't play it down the middle. They play it to the left, right? And so they're trying to work on trying to get that defunded and everything, which I would fully support. But it's interesting right now just because think of all the sources of information that we have to consume and how lucky we are to be able to go back and say, oh, you said this a year ago. Look at that. Bing. Here's what you said, dumbass. You don't just get to pull the wool over our eyes anymore because now I can go back and I can reference what you said. And it's just a beautiful thing. But we never had that when I was growing up because we didn't have access to digital media and everything was controlled. And so when we looked at Walter Cronkite and we looked at Tom Brokaw and we looked at Dan Rather and Peter Jennings, when we looked at all those people, we actually thought, hey, that's the fucking news.
That's the news.
Yeah, these guys know what they're talking about, and they're giving it to us straight. And so it was very hard to come up with a different viewpoint. But now, just think how lucky we are that we have the ability to do what we do, and to research what we have to research, and to come up with our own conclusions on what's really going on out there. Just think how lucky we are at this time. And I wonder if, in fact, at some point in the future, that goes away.
Well, I would say we're lucky that we have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people hit a channel and that doesn't strike a chord with them? That's not what they want to hear. And so they surf over to something else until they have them lined up to where they're back to everybody saying the exact same thing. And those are the people they feel are telling them the truth.
We all do that. I'm not going to say I'm immune to that. We all have our inherent confirmation biases. And so we all do that. I'm not immune. But it is nice to know that there's varying and different alternatives out there for information. So should have muted my phone, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's annoying.
Yeah.
If they call back again, I'm going to have to turn that thing off or something. But yeah, so obviously, you also have foot soldiers that are out there, people that are going to actually do the work, the heavy lifting, the people that are willing to commit acts of domestic terrorism, like what we saw a few years ago in a lot of places, like the George Floyd riots, where people were showing up, throwing bricks through storefront windows. And we watched buildings burn in city after city for seemed like months. And the media, the good foot soldiers that they were telling you that, oh, no, there's nothing to see but peaceful protests. And so this isn't that far removed from our recent history to see domestic terrorism. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know how they can consider that peaceful when they're burning down a whole city.
Right. And so, but we're seeing that again, I think, a resurgence of it recently with people. I've been seeing people defaming or defacing and, threatening people that are driving Teslas.
Mm-hmm.
That's just some sick bullshit right there.
Very childish, but yeah.
Well, it's not childish. I mean, what child does that? No child fucking does that. That's some domestic terrorism. You're trying to instill and get your point across, your political point of view, and you're doing so through fear by threatening people, threatening their lives, threatening their safety and security. I've seen people key in their cars. I've seen Tesla dealerships being burned. They're going and vandalizing the Tesla charging power stations. But the interesting thing is that they celebrated this man, Elon Musk, for years. A little less than a year ago, he was looked at as an owner of a great company, of many great companies in the United States, and was looked at as some revolutionary in the green space, in the green energy space, I should say. So it's pretty interesting to just watch that transformation. But I think that's all born out of radical leftism. And just, obviously he's close to the target. He's definitely circling the target, because if he wasn't having the effect that he's having, they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing to target Elon Musk. He's a very unassuming guy. He's very accomplished, very smart, very brilliant. He's done so much for the world. I can say that with confidence, with what he's done with, the satellites and all that shit that are circling the globe, and what he's doing up in space, and his desire to save and promote a future existence for humanity on another planet, to explore, not only as, having a boring company, the things that he's doing there, that's something people little talk about, but his boring companies going down and doing things underground, but yet he's up in space. He's everywhere. And again, he was celebrated, but now you see the radical leftists coming out and attacking this man, just like they've attacked Donald Trump. Isn't that interesting?
That's right. I was going to say that they liked Trump too, as long as they thought that he was on their side.
Yeah. It's been historically, I think, associated with, groups and individuals that are just basically kind of anti-capitalist and aiming to go after what they perceive as injustice. But I don't know what's really an injustice about rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse within the government and making, or proclaiming that you want to make this country great again. I don't see that to be radical.
Possibly hurting their pocketbook.
It's definitely again over the target, right?
Yes.
And I think we're going to see a lot more of this on the rise, because what the Democrat Party right now is, the left, is they're like a ship out at sea without a captain, and it's just kind of wandering aimlessly, and they're throwing a bunch of shit up to see what's going to stick. You've got Michelle Obama coming out. Hey, I'm going to do a podcast. It's called Big Mike. Come listen to me, which nobody's listening to. Right.
And why would it be Mike?
I was kidding.
Oh,
I don't know what it's called, quite honestly, but she's got a podcast now.
I think it should be named Big Mike.
It should be Big Mike.
Hello, William Zegley.
Bill Zigley, how you doing? And who else? Oh, Gavin Newsom. Yeah, he's out there trying to figure out, what his next move is. But again, with Sylvia Gibson's comment here up on the screen, what do these people operate on? It's all propaganda, right? They don't want you to think for themselves. They'll tell you what you need to pay attention to.
Just trust me. Just listen to what I'm saying and just trust me. I'll steer you right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah, the first time I had actually heard of domestic terrorism, I was a kid early on. And I don't know if you remember, Rebecca, but do you remember an organization called the SLA, where they were referred to as the Symbionese Liberation Army?
I do not.
You don't. I actually remember that when I was a kid, and I wasn't politically active or didn't want to watch the news or whatever. I probably just heard it, as my folks were watching the news or whatever. But I remember a big story back then that was attached to the Symbionese Liberation Army was when Patty Hearst was kidnapped. Do you remember that? Yeah. So that's who did that. And they were just a radical leftist group that, they had some form of, agenda that they wanted to push. And that was one of the things that they did that brought them that notoriety, or at least from my standpoint. I'd never heard of domestic terrorism. I was like a kid, man. I was probably 8 or 9 or something, right, when that happened. But the next time I heard about it, because it kind of went to bed for a while for me, I didn't pay attention. I guess I was an NPC. But it was during the Obama years. And it resurfaced for me because there was a guy named Bill Ayers. And Bill Ayers was somewhat of a mentor to Barack Obama. And that was very controversial at the time, because Bill Ayers was a member of a group, a domestic terrorist group called the Weather Underground, which was an offshoot of a an organization called, I believe, the Students for a Democratic Society. And that was kind of in the late 60s. And, as with many of these groups, they had a goal of violently opposing U.S. imperialism and capitalism and all that other stuff. But they conducted a series of, I think, banks and targeting government buildings. And eventually, I think they killed like 3 people. So that's the next time I had heard about it. But I think most recently we were all led, or not led, but we all heard of Antifa and what they did during George Floyd and all of that, right? During the election and yada yada yada. So I guess my question for you, Rebecca, is when does Antifa return, and do you even know what Antifa is?
I could not explain to you what Antifa is. So if you can refresh my memory on that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's Antifa is kind of it's taken out of to describe anti-fascism, and so it's basically an anti-fascist movement, modern anti-fascist movement, and referred to as Antifa, but it's supposedly grassroots. It's supposedly decentralized, and obviously opposing far-right ideologies with, whatever the far-right ideologies are at the time, whether that's white supremacy or authoritarianism or what have you. But yeah, I don't think it's actually that grassroots, because of how quickly they were, mobilized in all these different places, what we saw up in Seattle and the police stations and, all of that stuff. It was so very well coordinated, it seemed like to me. And I don't know how that's actually grassroots, but like overnight, and I'm sure most of you remember when the switch was flipped after the George Floyd thing. That sticks with me, man. Like it was yesterday.
Right. No masks.
Yeah.
Bricks just magically appearing.
Yeah. Everybody's super freaked out. No, don't go anywhere. Everybody stay home, put your mask on, and everybody's paranoid or whatever. And it was just such a weird time. And then all of a sudden that happened. And over freaking night, there was just hella people by the thousands all over the country in major city after major city. And it just happened for 3 months. Interesting.
So I could see something like that possibly happening in an attempt to, once they've exhausted all of their other resources, something like that happening in an attempt to bring down Trump shy of assassination.
Yeah, well, see, I think that it's definitely going to change the narrative if something like that happens. And, that's always kind of like a tool in the back pocket of whoever controls those people. But again, I don't think it's all that grassroots, because they are getting their marching orders from somewhere. And what always kind of interests me, I guess, being the conspiracy theorist that I am, is how is that not somehow monitored? I mean, if the government actually wanted to spy on every one of us using our phone, they could easily do that. They could easily do that. Everything that you say on that phone is triangulated through.
I was going to say, they're already doing that.
Well, I mean, that's what we suspect is going on. We know they have the capability of doing it. So in the instance of when things like this are being mobilized, how are they doing that? They're not doing it via carrier pigeon. It's over the internet. And so it should be fairly easy if somebody actually wanted to find out who's doing these things, who's bombing Elon Musk's place. There's fucking cameras everywhere.
It's definitely being recorded somewhere.
It's being recorded. And it's also, I can't imagine that these people haven't spoken about what they're doing to somebody or texted on some encrypted app. There's nothing that's encrypted if they want to get access to what you think you're encrypting. That's just the way that it is, man. When you hear people that actually work on the inside about this stuff, people think that they're safe if they use Signal or they use something or they use this or they use that. Well, there's people working for certain agencies that have the ability to access all of that information. So I guess my question is why aren't they doing anything about it? Right? Here's the thing. Anytime there's a large scale public assembly, I want you to think about this. Aligning with any kind of specific ideology, whether you're left or right, there's going to be federal agents embedded in those assemblies.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's J6 or George Floyd, there were feds there. Believe it. I mean, we saw it at J6.
Yes. And you probably saw it with George Floyd. You just were not as easily able to pick them out.
Of course. There were people there because that's their job. So I guess the question I have for you and anyone else is how likely that either of those two assemblies, J6 or the George Floyd riots, how likely is it that either of those two assemblies was actually orchestrated by the feds?
My guess would be highly likely.
On both of them? On one of them? What do you think?
I would say on both of them.
Okay. And yeah.
And then spun the way they want you to believe it.
Right. But see, that's my point, is because, you can think about it like this, right? So January 6th, everybody was pissed off about the election and they wanted, hey, we want to go and show support for the recount and everything and stuff. And we're going to go and we're going to have this big march on Washington. And that was organized via online through Facebook and other things. And the implication would be, or the assumption would be, that it was grassroots. But what's to say that that wasn't orchestrated initially by the feds? Putting out a message, hey, we want this to happen. And we're going to have this rally or whatever. And then, of course, a few people pick it up and then they run with it. And then, of course, Trump picks it up. Hey, yeah, they're going to have a rally on my behalf. That's a great idea. Show up and blah, blah, blah. I'll be there. I mean, what's to say that that didn't occur that way? What's to say that what happened with this George Floyd thing wasn't a switch that was flipped and it just, boom, it happened by.
Right. So hello to Skane's girl, and then pull up her comment.
All right. Okay. Now I've done it. Dude, what is going on here? Oh, man. Sorry, guys. All right. I'll figure this out somehow. I got to quit doing this. All right. So what's up, Skane's girl? Sylvia Gibson's in the house. How are you? That's good to see you.
And Bird Lady.
Let's see. I'm missing a bunch of questions. Let me go back here, ways. Get caught up. Bird Lady says, look at that, boy. Talking to William and says, I collected 58 eggs today, 44. I usually get a minimum of 3 dozen a day.
Wow.
That's awesome.
You have to have a lot of birds.
You have to be selling a lot of eggs. That's amazing.
Or eating a lot of eggs.
Let's see. I have an unhealthy obsession with continually hatching out chickens. Chicken math is a real thing. Better than me. That's great.
They're so cute when they're little.
Yeah.
If they could just stay that cute, I'd have an obsession too.
Yeah. What did we get? What are we getting about for eggs? You say we're getting about.
We are getting about 20.
20 a day right now. Yeah. And what do we sell this week?
5 dozen so far.
Right. Maybe still got 2 in the hopper right now.
3.
3 in the hopper. Yeah. 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 So they're starting to wake up. The girls are starting to realize the days are a little bit longer, and we're starting to get a little bit more kicking back in to the, contributing to the process. Okay. Skanes is in the house, says, hey, y'all, been listening as I am running in and out. Well, welcome. And Sylvia says, the recent protests, the people have fancy signs, coordinated groups showing up at set times, etc. Who's paying for it? Yeah, a lot of that stuff is definitely funded and paid for, much in the same way as what you see people reading from a script. Somebody's giving them these marching orders, and it's so much about stagecraft. It is really not that grassroots. Grassroots would be like, hey, I'm going to go to this thing and I'm going to scribble some shit on a deal. But when you see them showing up with printed signs to these things, you know that somebody, hey, we're doing this thing now. Here's your sign. You hold this one. You hold that one. And so it's very, it's not grassroots, very coordinated.
There you go.
Let's see. FYI, there were ads on Facebook advertising for protesters for hire. Saw them myself.
And that's Craigslist, not Facebook.
Yeah, Craigslist advertising. I wonder if you're referring to something recently, like with the thing that's going on with Elon and the Doge, or are you referring to something that happened in the past that we were just referring to, like George Floyd and J6? But I would not put that past them at all. And Bird Lady agrees with you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often.
Yeah. So I guess another question would be that, since we know that the CIA is actively engaged in regime change operations around the world, well, what should make any of us think that they're not doing that here?
I would say that they probably are.
Right. Yeah, I think that if you don't at least think that that's plausible that they're doing that within this country, I mean, obviously they're trying to probably affect things politically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we saw a good deal of that last time with the weaponization of the justice system and all of that. That was out in the open for all of us to see.
No, you didn't see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, along with all these Doge cuts, Trump has actually targeted a lot of these federal agencies for elimination. And among those on the list are things like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And recently he's talked about getting rid of the Department of Education. And of course, one of the first things that they've been targeting is USAID, where they went in and fired a bunch of people and basically essentially shut the entire agency down and moved a few of those positions under the purview of Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And then they scraped all the letters and shit off the building, right? Yeah. And then they moved in, I think, Customs and Border Patrol into that facility. And so I guess my question to you, Rebecca, is what authority does Trump have to do this? Is that in his purview as the executive?
I would say yes, because he's president,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the president can be overridden by the House and the Senate on certain things that they have to vote on.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something they have to vote on, then they could turn it down.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't have to be voted on, then I would say yes. Trump could say yes, he wants to get rid of it.
Right. Well, the bottom line is that Trump actually has no authority to get rid of those agencies. The only agency that he has eliminated, that he has the executive authority to do, is a little known agency called the FEI. It's refers to that acronym refers to the Federal Executive Institute. And that program, get this, was designed to foster a cohesive leadership culture across federal agencies, emphasizing strategic thinking and interagency collaboration. Sounds fluffy and warm,
Mm-hmm.
right? That actually was put in, I believe, under LBJ. So it's been around a while, this thing. And that's the only one. I suppose we could look at that as a did you know, but that's the only thing that Trump has said he's going to terminate that he has the executive authority to do. But that little known program or institute, what do you want to refer it to, is it's got about 20 to 50 employees. Nobody really knows. It's kind of like yeah, it's just this thing that, we believe it's this. So it's got about 20 to 50 employees, and it has an annual budget of, again, they don't know the actual numbers, but somewhere around $5 to $10 million. And so in order for, Trump, his eliminations to be upheld, they would need to basically go through the legislative approval process. Congress would have to vote on it, and that would be done by a simple majority.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is that, at this point, with I think 435 in the House, that's going to be 218 votes that they would need there. And then they would need a minimum of 51 votes, but they have 53 in the Senate right now. So the Republicans have the numbers, but of course we always have people who are going to defect.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it hard to believe that they would, have unity on eliminating these programs with all the deep state rhinos that are actually in the Senate and the House, right? What do you think? What do you think? You think they're going to have any luck on that? So all they need is a simple majority in either. However, here's a glitch to that whole thing. The Senate has a thing called the filibuster, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what the filibuster is it's a way that they can, as the minority, whatever this is, the minority party, gets an opportunity to say that you need 60 votes in order to reach cloture, which means we're going to close debate on the issue and it's going to go and be put to a vote. Once cloture happens, then it's going to go to the vote. And then that's where they only need 51 votes. But they have the ability to essentially filibuster, which means they can stand up on the House in the Senate and bloviate for like the eternity. They can just keep, hey man, you come over here and it's your shift. And they get up and this is bullshit and blah, 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 blah. And they can do their 2 hours in the well. And then, Joe Blow will come in and he's going to keep doing, and they can just keep the debate open and it never gets voted on. And so it's a way that they have the ability to slow down the process. And so there is, however, something that the Republicans can do to get their thing passed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called exercising the nuclear option. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that is they can basically do away with that procedural 60 vote thing. But what that does in the future is that's going to make it so that the other party is going to be able to do the same thing on that type of an issue.
Mm. Yeah. Right? So you don't want to really rely on that unless you absolutely have to.
Okay. So here's the question. Do you think that they should, use the nuclear option? What do you think? Do you think that they should use it? Because they can do that right now, but see, here's what the result of that will be, because this is what's happened in the judiciary, in the courts. So like back when the Democrats had the majority, but they didn't have 60 votes, they wanted to pass a bunch of Obama's lower court judges.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to put through all these judges that needed to. And Harry Reid at the time, he was the leader.
I remember who he is.
Yeah, from Nevada. He basically exercised the nuclear option. So what that did is that lowered the threshold for any future judges being put in to be just a simple majority. Now they don't have the filibuster option because now the Republicans are going to do the same thing. And Donald Trump, or excuse me, not Donald Trump, but Mitch McConnell did the same thing to get Neil Gorsuch in.
Mm-hmm.
They, fuck it. You guys did it. We're going to do it. And you set precedent. And so what that does is it's going to set the precedent for any other federal agencies that maybe want to be eliminated. So if there's something that the right says, hey, this is a program we don't want, but they're in the minority, they're going to be able to just ram it through. So do you think they should exercise the nuclear option? What do you think?
If he's able to expose a lot that really opens up people's eyes and they get to see all of the corruption, I would say go for the nuclear option.
Okay.
Because hopefully that would be changing enough people.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything for me to do about changing people because people are going to be people. But I guess that's your point of view. Skane says they need to do it, in my opinion. London Pickering says, I like the idea of ditching the federal Department of Education. The states should handle education in each state. We need less bureaucracy. And that's Trump.
Which I think, yeah, that's what Trump was trying to do.
That's what his position is. And I think a lot of people probably agree with that. The more local control that you have for certain issues is the better. Take it out of the hands of the federal government. However, as what I was saying is that they don't have the right to do that. They do have the numbers to do it by just a simple majority at this point. They actually have two people in the Senate they can lose and still pass it without using J.D. Vance. And they got J.D. Vance. So they could lose 3 people in the Senate and still get this through with J.D. Vance's vote. And I agree with everybody.
So here's my question. Can they attempt to go the one way and then go the other if it doesn't turn out the way they want it?
I don't know what you mean one way. What's one way?
Okay. You said with the vote, they could actually lose 3 votes.
Yes.
To get it overturned. Can they attempt to go that direction? If it doesn't turn out, then they could do the nuclear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always an option.
That would be.
It's always an option. I agree with you. I agree with Skane's girl. I think that it should be done. And the reason why I say that is because if the shoe were on the other foot, they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fucking ram shit through. They've set that precedent with what they did with the Obama judges and the judiciary. They set that precedent with what they're going to do with Obamacare, right? We're going to pass the bill and then you're going to figure out if you like it or not later. And we don't really care what you think. That's how the Democrats operate. And right now there's so much partisan divide in Washington, nothing's going to get done anyhow. That's exactly what the Democrats are going to do. They're going to put up those roadblocks. They're going to filibuster. I guarantee you when this goes to a vote. But this needs to go to a vote, or otherwise what Trump is doing with Doge, it's not really going to matter. It's not really going to matter because it's going to be reconstituted when he's no longer there, or it's going to be upheld or his decisions will be overturned in the courts and they will be forced to do something like this. But I think it's within the executive's purview to cancel and to eliminate programs. But again, it has to go through to get finally ratified. It has to be legislatively approved. He doesn't have the ability to just come in there with like, hey, I'm Caesar and I can do this. Mm-hmm. Not how it works.
So back with your question about the protesters, Skane's girl says, no, it was during BLM.
What are you talking about?
The George Lai, no, I can't even say his last name. George Floyd. Okay,
so she says no during BLM protests and Antifa.
Right, that she saw on Craigslist.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's taking it back a minute. Yeah, that's not surprising though. I mean, to me, because it was very did not seem grassroots. It seemed very organized, and I'm surprised they actually put something like that out in that way. I don't know. It's interesting. Hogs 14 said, I would be good with getting rid of the Department of Education as well. I went to a parochial school and we always paid our way and no government funding and survived. Yeah.
I as well went to a parochial school.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said before, with what happened earlier when I opened the show, if some of you just popped in, but we had some breaking news at the time, which was that Trump has announced he is going to be releasing, or there's going to be a release tomorrow, sometime in the afternoon, of the assassination records of John F. Kennedy, those files that are supposedly declassified now and going to be coming out. There's some 80,000 pages. And what I was going to ask you, Rebecca, as we kind of close things up here tonight, is what grade would you give Donald Trump? Because we talked about this a couple of weeks in. We were pretty enthusiastic about the job that he's done and everything. And I think you gave him an A or something like that. And I think I gave him an A- or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember, but it's something
somewhere
like
around
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And what grade would you give him thus far, now that we are about 6 weeks into his presidency? And how would you assess that?
I don't know that my needle has changed very much.
Mm.
If so, maybe an A-, but not much, because he still is going like crazy, just, like putting his head down and fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the most part, his team is behind him and is supporting him. And until I see that they're not, like his first term, where they just completely ditched him.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say that I have a similar, grade at this point. I'm going to hold it right about an A-. And let me ask you this: what concerns, if any, do you have with, what he's done thus far and stuff? Any issues that you see that are problematic for you?
Only when there's information that's being released that they are not able to follow up with within the regular population's attention span. So, if you say, well, we'll use JFK as an example. If you say, hey, we're going to do that and it's going to come out in the next 2 weeks, and it doesn't, you're going to lose people's folks, their feelings over you of what type of job you're going to do. So for me, I can allow a time period because I know that there's a lot of struggle that he's going to go through. So I can say, hey, he went in and said he's going to release this in this amount of time, and it hasn't come out, but he's got a huge fight. And so I can give him a grace period.
Yeah, I tend to want to do that as well. I was very much before this, the information that was just released a few hours ago about JFK coming out, I was getting a little bit more questioning what's going on with all of this, because we haven't heard any follow up, despite people's interest in release of a lot of files that should be declassified at this point. And that's been one of my concerns, but I'm going to, be cautiously optimistically looking forward to what comes out tomorrow, and I'll reassess, but I would still hold him about an A- on what he's done. The other thing that gives me concern is I really am not a fan of this whole idea of going in and reconstituting Gaza. I don't think we have any business doing that. And it really makes me question, Trump's idea about what he said about America first. I think that's great that we could do something like that. But again, why allow Israel? Because Israel is part of our interest over in that region that we have a lot of control over. And what took place was something that they were given the green light to do, which was to destroy an entire fucking population of people and displace them with no place to go. And then, now we're going to come in and, hey, we've got some contractors that can really do some great work for you. It's going to be a booming business for all. We'll make it into the Riviera of the Middle East. I mean, fuck it. I'm not into that, man. I think these people need to fight it out. And I think there's a lot of influence being pushed toward Trump and other leaders from the Israeli alliance that we have through various lobbying groups, and makes me question what's really going on. Because when you have somebody that says America first, which he's taking care of us, don't make no mistake, he's doing right by America, and it doesn't mean we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. But I really have a problem with the idea of going over there in the Middle East and rebuilding it, because they can't seem to keep that together for very long.
I'm not sure if he 100% means that, or if that's just another bargaining tool. so I'm kind of caught in that.
It could very well be. It could very well be. And again, this will all play out soon, and we'll just have to see. And but do you have any surprises thus far in the administration? Any pleasant surprises? I've got a couple, but do you have any you'd like to mention?
Well, this has nothing to do with politics. It's kind of surprises me how calm he is with little X being in the, during the meetings and everything else. I would think that Trump would really kind of want him to not be such a little distraction that's there. But on the other hand, I think it's kind of cute. So, like I said, that doesn't really have anything to do with politics or anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I also, talking about little X, I believe that he has a very special opportunity to write a book as he gets older, because he has to be the only kid that grew up with the richest man in the world and got to hang out with the president.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't want any money for that idea. I just want to say thanks, Teal, in the book, but I really think he should write one.
Wow, that is a trip, huh? That to be in that, like, the president of the United States, number 47, hanging out, going on Marine One and flying in Air Force One and hanging out in the Oval Office, and then having the dad be the richest dude in the world, be Elon Musk. It's kind of a trip. But
so anyway, I think about that and I'm thinking that kid has the one chance of a life there that nobody else is going to experience that, or at least not during my lifetime.
Yeah, he would have that book to write probably had he not hung out with Trump, just being Elon's kid. But
but outside of that, I think that Trump has really gone in. He's really held to what he said he's going to do. I love his press secretary. I think she's doing a fabulous job.
Yeah.
My disappointment, I think, is probably maybe Kash Patel a little bit. I have not heard as much from him. I kind of thought that I guess I had expectations that he was going to go in and be as gangbuster as Trump.
Yeah. Well, he actually came out and I listened to a little presser that he did today. He spoke for about 10 or 15 minutes in front of the podium talking about what he's planning on doing within the department, in the FBI, and, all the things that they're working on as far as people they're trying to put behind bars. So I'm not sour on him at all. I think he's going to be just fine. I do have a problem with the fact that, how Pam Bondi did what she did, but we've already talked about all that.
Yeah.
I would say things that I've been pleasantly surprised with is I misjudged a couple of people, and they've proven me wrong, and I'm willing to admit that. And the first is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has proven, at least, obviously things could obviously change in the future, but he's seemed like he's been a very good pick for Trump. And he's managed his role quite well. He's not trying to grab the spotlight, but he steps in where he's being asked to step in. And when he gets before a microphone, he handles business. He's very, very polished, and it's actually believable polished. It's not Gavin Newsom polished. He's like an actual person when you hear him talk. He's not like a fucking robot that's doing a bunch of weird hand movements and shifting around and doing just like the politician thing. So I've been very, very thrilled with J.D. Vance thus far, because I had my reservations at first. And then another person that's impressed me quite a bit is little Marco.
Yes. I skipped over to LaMarco, but yes, he is performing far better than I anticipated he would. I was like, oh, you sure?
Yeah.
You sure you want him as a pick?
Right. No, he's very, very forceful, and he's sticking to the party line. He's sticking to, Trump's wishes and in that role. And so, like I say, I've been very, he's like the only person that got like 99 votes in the Senate, right? Because he's a party guy. He's an establishment dude. He's one of them. And so Trump picked one of them, and of course he sailed through the nomination. They had no questions for little Marco. So, but he's done very well, and I've been very happy with that.
Yes, Hogs, he is.
Yeah, Hog says Marco getting shit done. Indeed. London says, how can the Middle East ever get along? Religious differences make it unlikely. You know what else I think is kind of making it unlikely? Is by us always fucking around over there and overthrowing their people and doing what, we do behind the scenes. A lot of that stuff happens and, we just think, oh, they're kind of fucked up, or why are they so pissed at us? It's because of our involvement, man. A lot of it. That's why they say death to America and shit like that. It's in their Quran. It's in their book that they, their religious text. But, if you poke somebody enough, they're going to believe that shit and they're going to try to live it out. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I think we'd be better off if there was people who were actually less inclined to try to go over there and, fund things that they don't actually believe in. We're funding like transgender bullshit in these countries, spending our dollars to go over there and try to figure out a way to change how they live their lives. That's not our job. We shouldn't be interested in doing that, because what did I say earlier? People just want to live their life according to how they want to live it and leave me the fuck alone. That's what 100% of the people in this country want to do, or in this world, I should say. I want to live my life like I want to live it. And if you can do that without infringing on somebody else, then you should have every right to do that. And who am I as some person that says, oh, you need democracy? Wait a fucking minute. Who says I want that? Who says I want your way of life? But see, we just think, oh, we're the best, so we should want that for everybody else. Let them live their life, man.
Yeah.
It'd be a much better world. And you'd have that respect from people, and then they wouldn't try to fucking target you and kill you. But it's just an interesting thing how people just can't get along.
Hawk is saying 100%, Eric.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I agree. You don't need to be poking your nose in everybody else's business.
No.
Unless there's due cause for it. But, if they're just being themselves and doing their things, leave them alone.
Yeah. But see there's always the excuse like, well, we need to do this because of that. Well, a lot of times shit's made up. Mm-hmm. Hey, weapons of mass destruction. There's yellow cake over there. We need to go do this. And then we find out, oh, that was bullshit. That didn't work out. And then all the people that lives were killed and money was wasted. And, people signed up to do the right thing, fight for their country. And there's people now who have a little folded flag from some bullshit that somebody said, hey, this would be a good idea. Let's play toy soldier. Let's play G.I. Joe. But you know what? The best part about me playing G.I. Joe as a bureaucrat is I don't have to get shot at. I can still walk around in the Capitol and go to little cocktail parties and shit while somebody else goes over there and loses limbs. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing? That's how we do. But anyhow, I digress.
Yes.
Yeah. London says you're right. We need to stay out of everybody's business. Almighty dollar is why it's why we mess with everyone. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So a couple of other surprises. Well, that's not really a couple. It's just one surprise that I have. And I would have to say that I'm very surprised, or not really surprised, but just pleasantly surprised with this person.
Well, before you go to her, because I think she would be a good closing out. Mm-hmm. When Eric was talking about the weather and the wind blowing like crazy, it was amazing that we didn't lose any more limbs than we did out of trees. Mm-hmm. Not very many. However, we did have a bag of sawdust blow off of the pig pen. I went out to feed the pigs. We have 3 little piglets. And one of them was inside the plastic bag, all just nestled down inside that sawdust, just as comfortable as could be.
He ain't no fool. He ain't no fool, man. He's like, hey, that's warm and dry in there. That's where it's at. Go ahead.
That was after everything that happened for the weekend. That was my little happy spot.
That's pretty cool. You know what I did? And this relates to the pigs as well. Yesterday, because of all that wind, I was out in the backyard and I looked over toward the pool and I double taked and I locked on this for 2 seconds, 2 full seconds. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Well, Rebecca has these little pillows that are the same size and the same markings and the same color as the pigs. I swear to you, they're like, they look just like the little pigs. And they were up against the fence inside the pool. And it's one of those things where you look at something, you think, what is going on? Why are there, so I thought the pigs were in the pool yesterday.
I gave them some new environment to check out.
Jeez, man, I was going to freak out. What are pigs doing in my pool, man? Not cool. But anywho, so this is the other personnel choice that I've been very pleased with.
I think both of us are. I think we both like her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this is Carolyn Leavitt. She is not only smart as a whip, and she's she's very combative. She's feisty. I like spicy. So she's good. And she's really, really
as long as I'm not spicy.
The other thing is she's just adorable, She's just cute. She's not hard to look at, right?
I'm striking out.
No, it's undeniable, man. She's just a good looking lady. She's very attractive.
She is.
She has a very nice personality, but you don't really want to challenge her on certain things because she's going to put you, right in your place. But there's this one reporter from NBC, I believe she works for, or maybe CNN, I think, or something like that. They're all the same. But it's Caitlin Collins, and she's a rising star in the leftism media world. But I think, she's just one of another of many that, are paid propagandists and have a political bias and a hatred toward Trump. And so she's always trying to get her points in, but whether it's Trump or Carolyn Leavitt, they're going to let her know what time it is. But it's pretty interesting to see her response with regarding this issue.
Or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
Is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out. Okay, Sean. Perhaps criminal.
Boom. Mic drop. You're a reporter. You should find out. Next question. Yeah, I love how she handles herself, but that's kind of a big story too. I want to see how this is actually going to play out, if it's going to play out at all. But this whole idea that Biden, used these auto pens, and the question about that is obviously he may not have even been purview to some of the things that were being signed. They were just being signed on his behalf without his knowledge. And this goes back to something that I heard Mike Johnson talking about on an interview, where he was talking about, "Oh, Mr. President, I need to speak to you about this particular issue." And Biden says, "Oh no, I didn't sign that." When he got a chance to talk with Biden, Biden's like, "No, I didn't sign that. What are you talking about?" And no, President, I've got the document. I can dig it up if you want to. No, I didn't sign that. And so he was insistent that he didn't sign this very important document, but yet, in fact, he had, of course, via auto pen. So I'm sure there's probably a lot of things like that because, old boy really wasn't running things. We all had suspicions of that for a very long time. Who's running the White House? He was gone for 40% of the time. He was on the beach licking ice cream cones. So, we all had our suspicions, but as this stuff starts to go, did you know that Biden, go look up the amount of pardons he has, because I have. It's pretty interesting, man. Very interesting, quite honestly. The most out of anybody except a few from way back, like one that was president for 16 years. I think he's got more, But Biden had over 1,400 pardons. And these all happened like in the last like hour of his presidency.
Which is ridiculous because a lot of those pardons, the people had not even been convicted of a crime, but yet they got pardoned. So I don't even know how they stick.
Again, yeah, that's going to probably be looked into. And I'm going to reserve some cautious optimism because I think the Department of Justice may be looking into some of all of the things that we're talking about as it relates to this, not only with the auto pin stuff, because that may invalidate, some of these important documents, because auto pin has never been used to sign executive orders, man.
Yeah.
And pardons and shit like that. Those are very important things. You sign that as a president. You don't just like, hey, bink, that's used if you can't be available or it's something that has to happen at that point in time. Right. But you're in another place and they need your signature or whatever. And it's done, but very limitedly, not like, this is a regular thing. So I don't know. We'll see. But yes, London, she is a firecracker.
Yes.
Now here's one more of that firecracker to take you on the way out. But yeah, I like her quite a bit. I look forward to her press briefings. She's very well composed and she's only going to get better as time moves on.
Member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
Mic drop. Another mic drop. So yeah, needless to say, I like her quite a bit. But anyhow, I think we're going to wrap it up tonight, guys. But I do want to thank you for joining. We've had a lively discussion here this evening, and people have joined in and chimed in, and we always like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to come here and vent and talk about the current events and things that are happening here and abroad. So again, until next time, go out and try to be better tomorrow than you were today.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy Thanksgiving. What are you talking about?
Happy St. Patrick's Day. May you all have a green beer.
Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you guys next week.
It's a senior moment. Sorry.
All right, guys. Homesteading is not harmful content.